Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Best of the AFC West podcast. It is Tuesday, January 3rd, 2017. So, 2016 is behind us, as is the whole regular season. As we're ready to talk about the playoffs, got a big show this week, talking about the playoffs. I've got some coaching changes and all sorts of fun stuff. I'm your host, Prather Silverthorne. And with me, as always, is Broncos fan Chris Kraus.
Raiders suck.
Raiders fan Tyler Stevens.
I really want to see that
waveform. And Los Angeles Chargers supporter Sumoth Delafoodie.
I was gonna say I was waiting for I'm just here not to get made fun of, but I guess that's not happening.
No, you're getting me.
No, we always gotta make fun of the Chargers.
Raiders suck.
Yeah.
So, you know what? I was taking some off of Sumont there.
There you go.
We can suck from the playoffs.
There will be plenty of time to make fun of the Raiders. So news. Let's just jump right into it. Real quick out of Kansas City, Andy Reid in his press conference on Tuesday said that the Chiefs would have all 53 players available for their opening playoff game. That includes Justin Houston and Spencer Ware, who did not play against the Chargers due to injury. So Chiefs are going into the playoffs healthy, which is a good thing. Sumoth, what do you got?
Well, as I'm sure some of you at least know by now, after Sunday's presser, following the loss to Kansas City, Mike McCoy was fired by the Chargers after 4 seasons as head coach. He was a combined 28-38 in the regular season and postseason in his 4 years here, and pretty much the biggest downfall over the past 2 seasons has been mostly the injuries and the inconsistencies that the Chargers have had in one-score games and in the second half adjustments. I believe we're 7-18 in one-score games in the last 2 seasons, which is dreadful. And in the past, Mike McCoy has shown tendencies, at least in this season, to create effective game plans. So we would have amazing starts, as you've all seen. We've run away with most of our first halves, but Mike McCoy and the rest of the staff, I suppose, to whatever degree they have done or not done, not adjusted these plans very well past halftime and have just stuck to their plans rigidly, and therefore other teams adapt to it, and we usually lose the second half. With all that said, I mean, the players have all loved him and supported him and have fought for him, all through the season. And Coach McCoy, for his faults, gave everything he had for, coaching the team and basically putting in the effort needed to at least attempt to win games. So I think what you'll see from him, at least this offseason, is he's going to be a really hot offensive coordinator candidate. Some openings were talked about, probably the Bears and the Dolphins, or not the Dolphins, but the Bears and the Ravens. But since those positions aren't open, I would look into the Jets possibly as a possible place for him to land, since the offensive staff is being cleared out over there. And no matter what happens to him, I wish him well. He's going to be a good coach for a lot of people, I think, on the offensive side of the ball around the league, and maybe in the future will become a head coaching candidate again, and I hope he takes these lessons into consideration when he becomes a head coach again. Quick notes on the San Diego Stadium situation that we've been alluding to all early in the podcast. Currently, the city, county, and San Diego State have put up a total of $375 million as a collective final offer to the Chargers in order to help build a stadium. And the way Dean Spanos is considering this situation is he feels like he has no choice but to move, but he really, really does not want to move and has appealed to the league for additional help. NFL owners are going to be meeting on January 11th with the deadline 4 days after that, and a number of factors are going to be discussed to keep the team in San Diego. Part of that stuff is increasing the G4 stadium funds on top of the $300 million the NFL is providing to match the increasing costs of the new stadium, and extending possibly just the deadline for the LA thing, since the Raiders seem to be going full gun for Las Vegas. Currently, between the entire, the collective city offer, the Chargers money that they're going to put up, and the NFL funds, there's a gap between $100 million and $175 million between what we have and what an estimated stadium in the Mission Valley site, which is the Qualcomm site, is projected to be. So assuming some sort of deal can get worked out by the 15th in some way, shape, or form, the team has a chance to stay. Otherwise, we can be talking about the Chargers moving to Los Angeles in about 2 weeks. So we'll, fingers crossed on our end. We'll see what happens on that end, and that's what I've got coming out of San Diego.
So does Spanos really not want to move, or is he just saying that?
No, I mean, there's a lot of people saying that he really wants to move the team. I've never seen him delay this thing so often just for the sake of delaying it. I feel like if he really wanted to move the team, he would have done it 10 years ago at this point. So I think he wants to stay, but in terms of ownership and in terms of the money that they have, considering that Spanos is not Kroenke, not even near Kroenke in terms of, if that's a comparison of how much money he has to just throw around and use for one investment that he's got, I suppose this is what he feels is best in terms of not putting your eggs in one basket or having a sound business decision. And it's not something we all want to hear, but that's my take on it in the most unbiased way I can possibly put up with it.
Makes sense. Who are the Chargers looking at for coaches?
Right. So we've got 6 names currently, on tap for the Chargers to interview. The biggest one, at least for now, seems to be Matt Patricia, the New England defensive coordinator. The biggest things about him is
he has a sick beard, by the way.
He does have an amazing beard. We need a beard, so I mean he fits the bill. But in terms of his coach acumen, he's 42. Everyone talks about his engineering degree at Rensselaer Poly. And he's been basically coaching under Bill Belichick his entire coaching career. So he's young, he seems to be smart, and he has a lot of positives going for him. Although my personal negative on him so far is how much does he actually contribute to the Patriots defense? Because Bill Belichick is a defensive coach. I think that should be pretty advertised by about now. And who knows what Matt Patricia actually does behind the scenes and sort of the plans that he makes and whether or not Bill Belichick is involved in what it is. And because really, and we've already had the lack of success of Patriots coordinators being head coaches in the NFL, so that's a worry on my end. But in terms of what he does show, he's shown a lot of intangibles, and he's shown quite a bit of adaptability and possibility and potential to be a head coach. And he impressed the Browns last year with the head coaching position. He would have been the pick had Hugh not basically signed up for that. So he's the biggest one, and he's expected to interview this weekend. The other big names so far for the Chargers are Vance Joseph, the Miami defensive coordinator. He's been coaching the Miami defense for 1 year and has taken a very hobbled and injured Miami defense and made them respectable. The biggest name that annoys you the most, Prather, is Dave Tube, Kansas City special team coach. And
I mean, you should probably just keep looking. I mean, there's nothing to see here. He's not going to be a good head coach. Totally.
Okay.
Tyreek Hill doesn't need a coach.
No, not at all. But for the fans who want a serious evaluation, I'm actually starting to warm to Dave Tube. So quite a bit of the analysis on him so far has been he has been stellar in every situation he's been in. He's been a special teams coach for much of his of the past, I guess, almost 10, 15 years at this point between Chicago and Kansas City, and has basically made those special teams units at those teams dominant pretty much the whole time he's been there. And a lot of Chicago fans are mad that he wasn't considered for the head coaching job over there. And he's interviewed for a head coach before. He was interviewed in Miami for the 2011 opening where they chose Joe Philbin instead. And he has so much, experience and potential to be a really, really good head coach. No one has said anything negative about Dave Tube. And there's, the sky's the limit for him. And I'm starting to warm to him as my possible front runner for, at least in my mind, who should be the head coach for the Chargers. In addition, over the past day or so, we've been hearing Terrell Austin, the Detroit defensive coordinator, getting an interview look at, and as well as Sean McDermott, Carolina defensive coordinator, and former Falcons head coach and current Tampa defensive coordinator Mike Smith. And those are the 6 names that we have currently listed for coaching so far. You'd be interested to see that there are no offensive names in this list. There are 5 DCs and 1 special teams coach, which is a distinct, shift in the coaching philosophy that I guess John Spanos is taking. So John Spanos is Dean's son and has now taken over football ops last year, and this is going to be his first head coaching search. So it's going to be interesting to see where we go from there.
All right. So Norv Turner to the Chargers 2017. You heard it here first. Chris, you also have some coaching news.
Yeah, I'll start off with that. Well, if you haven't heard already, Gary Kubiak is retiring as head coach of the Broncos, which is super sad for Broncos fans since we only had him for a couple years, and so far he's 1 for 2 for Super Bowl wins with us. So he's going to be sorely missed as a close family member to the Bronco family. He was here, if people don't know, as the backup to Elway back when Elway played for us. So, and even back then he was a big part of preparing for games and helping Elway. But we're looking at a lot of the same guys that the Chargers are looking at, so I don't have to talk as much since Sumant already covered most of them. Terrell Austin, like he said, Vance Joseph and Dave Tube are all on there. But also I think the front runner right now is Kyle Shanahan, which would make sense, keeping it in the Bronco family once again. He grew up in Colorado, obviously. His dad coached here. And I think he's going to be interviewing with us this weekend, is what I heard. I don't know if that's changed recently, but I heard that at the end of the week, last week, or over the weekend. It was over the weekend. Also, I've heard rumors of some others. The Miami Dolphins defensive coordinator Vance Joseph, did I already mention him? Yeah, I did. Or the Buffalo Bills interim coach Anthony Lynn, the Seattle Seahawks offensive coordinator Darrell Bevell, and also the Detroit Lions defensive coordinator Terrell Austin. Oh, I already talked about him as well. Sorry. Well, I'm going to just repeat myself until I'm done. So yeah, there's a lot of names in the mix. Did I cover all of them? I believe so. Otherwise, Zaire Anderson, if you watched the game on Sunday, was injured. And it turns out that reports came out afterwards. I was at the game, and it was scary because he was down on the field for a long time, and it seemed like they were really concerned. There were people running back and forth from the sidelines for a while, getting extra equipment, and they were taking a lot of care to get him off the field. And he looked like he was pretty much out. And it came out later that he was actually temporarily paralyzed during the game. So he went headfirst into the pile covering a punt return, I believe it was. It was either a punt or a kick return.
I think it was a kick.
And I guess he compressed his spine, the doctors were saying, and he was completely paralyzed in his arms and legs because he tried to get up, and I guess he said it just felt like gravity was holding him down, which is one of the most terrifying things you can think of as a football player. But good news for him, he is improving and he has full feeling back. And we're hoping that he'll be good for next year. It's good that it was the last game of the year because he's not going to have to take any hits for a good long while. But he's been a good player for us as a linebacker, so I'm hoping that he will continue to develop and will heal up. But otherwise, I can't think of any other news in Broncos world. Did I miss anything?
No, I think that's it.
Okay.
And Tyler, what you got coming out of Oakland? Tyler.
Probably muted
He's
himself.
dead. He's dead.
Well, it looks like we lost Tyler.
He's as dead as Derek Carr. So.
Oh. Well, at least until we figure out what the hell happened to him, I'll just read off what he's got going. So, as I think some of you have all heard now, the Raiders are starting third-string quarterback Connor Cook against the Texans since Derek Carr is indeed dead, and Matt McGloin is also partially dead. So
the car is, as the people in line in front of me at the game were saying yesterday, the car has broken down.
The car has indeed broken down.
Yeah, the car is currently in the shop.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And yeah.
Anyway, we'll go.
Am I back?
Oh, you are back.
Hey.
I'm back. All right. So let me actually do a better job than Sumant just did.
Ooh, sick burn.
So, most of you have heard rookie 4th round pick Connor Cook and 3rd string quarterback going into this year will start for the Raiders this Sunday in his first career start. So it's the first time in NFL history that a rookie quarterback will make his first career start in the playoffs. And Cook will travel with the Raiders to Houston to take on the Texans after coming into the game in the loss to the Broncos, replacing an quote-unquote injured Matt McGloin. Don't let Matty's injury confuse you, though. He's healthy. It's just his poor play that led to Cook's start. In other news, Carl Joseph. So this is more rookie good news. He's missed 4 games with the undisclosed toe injury and will make his return this wildcard weekend. He's practiced the last 2 weeks, but has been limited and held out precautionarily. But now that backup safety Nate Allen is in the concussion protocol, Joseph is planning on returning. Some bad news. Veteran left tackle Donald Penn went down in our loss to the Broncos. I don't know the extent of the injury, just that it's a leg injury and he has yet to return to practice, so it is unknown if he will be there to protect the rookie's blind side Saturday. And some better news to close it out. Stacy blow on me and I get injured. McGee should be good to go this Saturday, and that's a big clog in the middle of our defense. Hopefully he could stay on the field for 60 minutes. That's all.
All right, so now that Tyler decided to come back and do his news, we can get into the reviews of the games. So both of the games in Week 17, obviously, were within the division, so only 2 games to cover. And there were 2 teams left vying for playoff seeding. The Broncos were eliminated on Christmas night after getting embarrassed by the Chiefs, and the Chargers were eliminated long before then. So
I thought we skipped that week. Let's just move on. All right.
So anyway,
Well,
the first game.
We can't go on without, showing everybody our Christmas presents.
Hey, you know what? The Broncos beat the Raiders. Anyone hear about that?
Hey.
We'll get there. Well, anyway, the first game, the Chiefs end up defeating the Chargers 37-27. And I guess I'll start it off. The offense looked pretty good. We put up 365 yards of offense, and Travis Kelce, who has been our biggest playmaker the last few weeks, he only had 1 catch for 8 yards. So that means that other players are stepping up. Sharkandrick West, with Spencer Ware out of the game, he had over 100 yards from scrimmage. Chris Conley and Jeremy Maclin looked good on the outside as receivers, and it's just very balanced offense. Alex Smith is playing really well. He's using his legs to pick up key third downs, and Tyreek Hill is as explosive as ever. The defense is still giving up a ton of yards, but they keep getting turnovers. Marcus Peters, after having 5 interceptions through the first 5 games of the season, waits until Week 17 to get interception number 6. And then Daniel Sorensen also had an interception in the back of the end zone. The run defense was definitely a problem. Andre Williams and Ronnie Hillman ran all over us, and they aren't exactly superstars. So I'm not excited to see what Le'Veon Bell does against us if we end up playing him.
In defense of Ronnie Hillman, he was the leading rusher on the Super Bowl winning Denver Broncos last year.
I really never thought Ronnie Hillman was that bad.
He's not.
I think the Denver fans gave him I think they were unfair to Ronnie Hillman.
No, I don't think they were that unfair. Like, he's good, sure. Well, he's not great, but I think CJ was just as good, if not better. And also, Ronnie Hillman was notorious for having a bad attitude. And if you got a bad attitude around here, you're not going to last for very long.
Tell that to Aqib Talib.
Well, he's just bad, man. He doesn't have a bad attitude.
I'm sure we'll get to him and Michael Crabtree later.
No, we're just going to ignore that. That's not happening.
and then Tyreek Hill had another ridiculous 95-yard punt return for a touchdown. And he's even better than Dante Hall because Tyreek Hill can break tackles, which is scary. And I mentioned earlier that Alex Smith played well. I mean, I've ragged on him a lot this season, but the last 4 games have been night and day between the start of the season. So he's playing well enough that the Chiefs have a chance to go all the way. So that's all I have. Sumonth. Chargers had nothing to play for, right. And at times that's how they look. So what do you have to add?
Yeah, no, that's a good way to start it because, I mean, for the most part, the Chargers did look like they were trying most of the game, and therein lies the problem, at least part of the problem, because it didn't look too good. Like, this was the first week, and I'm saying this with the Cleveland game in tow with this. This is the first game I really think the Chargers did not, on any phase of the game, look very good. And this is, again, this is with the Cleveland game in mention. Merry Christmas, Cleveland. But, what? Listen, we got them a Christmas present. Some very nice families got some, extra money for the food bank. It's fine. It's fine. Nothing bad came out of that. Anyway, I can't even use words. As mentioned earlier, I guess the defense allowed 365 yards because the Chiefs' offense was just moving all over us. I mean, and a lot of those yards came in very large, sizable chunks. The Chiefs did not have a lot of short plays, or at least it didn't feel like they had a lot of plays that went for short amounts of yardage. They got yards in large chunks. And, of course, we can talk about Andre Williams and Ronnie Hillman. Neither of those two started the season on the active roster. And they were the only active running backs we had, I don't know, it just underscores how bad our injury situation is, but both of them had very good days, particularly Williams. I think he averaged and this was his first week, I think, on the active roster. He was on the practice squad the whole season. I think he had a 4.5-ish yards per carry average. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but he had a really...
I didn't know he was on the Chargers until this game.
So,
I had no clue. I thought he was still with the Giants.
So what happened was he was waived by the Giants in the end of the preseason, and the Chargers picked him up and put him on the practice squad. And there he was the whole season. And we had to pull him up for this game because we had no other running backs. But, yeah, Andre Williams was on our practice squad the whole season, and he got called up for this game and did pretty well. And actually, if I can just talk about Andre Williams for a second, a lot of Giants fans, and we got him, all of us on the subreddit asked the Giants about him, and they were just like, oh, he's literally going to get you 3 yards a carry, and that's it. If you need 2 yards, he'll get you 3 yards. If you need 8 yards, he'll get you 3 yards. That's what they kept saying. I don't see what they're talking about in that game. Andre Williams, every time he carried the ball, made a cut immediately and found some decent yardage. At least on 70% of his carries. I was really impressed, actually, and I'm not sure where these Giants fans are getting that from, or at least if it was so much different in New York, but he looked really good in this game. And like you just said, right, the punt return that went 95 yards by Tyreek Hill, it was almost as much bad coverage as it was Tyreek's innate ability just to just to go crazy and blow it up.
Yeah, he caught the ball, and there was a Charger standing right there, and he must have thought he fair caught it or something.
There were 2 of them, actually. I think, I don't know who our gunners were, but they both just went to the side, assuming, I thought that...
One of them was standing behind him. It's like, what are you doing?
I don't know. I felt they both just went off to the side, and I'm just like, well, he didn't wave, but okay. And, yeah, at that point, Tyreek just went, found the gap. I guess the Chiefs did a really good job with creating that situation where a lane was open, and Tyreek ran it the whole way, stiff-arming one of his own players in the process. So, I mean, it's just, I don't know. That was bad. It was really bad coverage, and I'd imagine this is part of why Dave Tube might actually end up being a good hire for us, because we have trash special teams, and we've had trash special teams for many years now, and we haven't been able to figure that out. So, who knows? And one of the few defensive highlights we had in the game, because we need one defensive highlight for most games apparently. So Melvin Ingram tipped a pass near the end zone, and Jaleel Adai caught it and took it all the way back to the house for 90 yards, and that's awesome for him at least. And what that ends up doing is in 15 out of 16 games this season, the Chargers have had a takeaway on defense, which is outstanding in my opinion. That's one of the few really good things the Chargers defense has done all season, with the lone exception being the Cleveland game. Bosa got a sack, and he raises his count to 10.5 sacks. So he has double-digit sacks. He's tops among rookies in that category. And I believe he's top 3 in pretty much every other statistical category you can ask for, in tackles and quarterback hits and pressures. It's ridiculous. And if he doesn't get Defensive Rookie of the Year, I'm going to have to call somebody to fix the holes in my drywall that I'm going to make. Because there is no chance that any other player in any other defensive rookie in the NFL has done nearly as well as Joey Bosa has in less games than everyone else has been playing. So I think he's solidified with double-digit sacks. He should be Defensive Rookie of the Year. If he's not, someone better give me a really good explanation as to why. And if nothing else on the offense, Antonio Gates had a very nice thing happen to him during the game. The first touchdown catch of the game for the Chargers was a short pass from Rivers to Gates, and with that touchdown, Antonio Gates ties the all-time touchdown record by a tight end. He didn't break it, so Braithwaite's happy about that, at least, but he tied it. 111 touchdowns total, and he ties Chiefs and Falcons tight end Tony Gonzalez. So pretty much since he's coming back next season, the first touchdown gets...
He had touchdown 112 in his hand.
That's true.
He flat out dropped it.
Well, I mean, there was some good coverage there, so I mean, I'll give him a pass for that much. And either way, he's tied it at least, and he's coming back for 2017. So regardless of what you say, unless he gets hurt like within the first 8 seconds, he's going to break the record, in my opinion.
And you just jinxed him.
that dropped pass is gonna haunt him. He's not gonna be right mentally.
He's gonna catch 0 touchdowns next season. All right, sure.
First
he's gonna
of the 2017.
He's gonna be like he's gonna be like Dwayne Bowe in 2014, where he like got tackled at the 1 yard line like 9 times.
Yeah.
And the Chiefs ended up not having a single wide receiver touchdown that year. That's gonna happen.
I remember that year. That was a funny year. You almost had one against us, actually. I remember that. Almost had one against us.
And I think he fumbled it out of the end zone at the 1 yard line.
No, he fumbled it into the end zone, and Kelsey picked it up.
That's right.
I remember that.
Frickin' Dwayne Bowe.
Oh, man. I really thought he'd be really good at that time when you drafted him, but I guess not.
He was good for a short time. Well, anyway, with that Chiefs win, they would need a Raiders loss to clinch the number 2 seed in the AFC West and get the first round bye and a home playoff game.
Nice.
And guess what we gave them?
And guess what happened as the Broncos defeat the Raiders 24-6. Tyler,
Woo!
Yeah.
vent your frustrations.
Well, I'm going to kind of ignore every other aspect of this matchup and solely place my frustrations on the disgraceful outing of one Matthew McCoy. I've never really been a fan of this guy, even kind of at Penn State. I was hoping we'd find someone else, and we did, and he sucked too, but I'll get to that later. He's just kind of justified all the bad feelings I have for him in this game against the Broncos, and kind of anytime he's touched the field this season. In the beginning of the game, when the rest of our team actually seemed like they might try to win this game, Matt had opportunities to make a statement and catch the Broncos sleeping, but failed to step up in that very moment. One exemplary play you can look into is Cooper beating Talib pretty badly, streaking up the field. Matt sees it, and he just overthrows it. It kind of took the wind out of our sails, not only on the offense, but the rest of the team as well. And you can see when Cook enters the game, the team actually started to make plays again, albeit a day late and $1 short, but nonetheless, it gives you hope for this Saturday now that McCoy will be back on the bench. Before the game, there came a revelation that Matt actually blocks a lot of fans and media on Twitter and other social media platforms, citing his non-willingness to listen to negatives about the teams and his fellow players. But I kind of see that as a guy who can't really take criticism or handle pressure of the pro game, and I don't really think he should be in this league. If you can't take criticism or take pressure or hear both sides of what's happening at the moment, and it really showed on the field once he got hit. He was rattled just instantly. It's just frustrating.
Hey, before you move on from McGloin, and I'm not just trying to defend him, but I'm going to say that he went up against the number 1 defense in the league. You got to give him...
Well, no, he went up against the number 2 defense in the league. The number 1 defense in the league we're going to face this week.
No, Denver Broncos are still the number 1 defense. At least for a quarterback to face. Not considering a running back. So if you cut the running back out of the situation, which
they pretty much did, yeah.
In that game, yeah, we pretty much did on our own. But
well, okay, I don't see how you could defend it. He lacks physical size. He's not the shortest dude. He's 6'1", but
I'm just saying you got to cut him a little slack. I mean,
I really can't cut him any slack here. It's a contract year, so he's out of the league either way, whether he wants to or not. I don't think anybody's going to pick him up after that outing.
Yeah, he's probably off the Raiders, but I bet the Browns are like, hey.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
No, I think Hugh Jackson had him. I have to look back, but I think he was actually on Jackson's Raiders, and I don't think really That's a good fit.
Yeah, maybe.
No, but he doesn't have the physical size. Obviously, he doesn't have the arm talent. But what he did have was his football acumen and his drive. And that's what kind of led to his limited success before. But he doesn't have the drive. He collapsed mentally instantly once the Broncos hit him or even touched him. And he really honestly didn't even try at that point. And so what are the pluses of his game? Everything else is a negative at this point.
Yeah.
You had people unrealistically defending this guy and putting their eggs in his basket when his basket has holes literally all over it. So I'm kind of dismissing him. He's gone to me. He's dead.
All right. Well, what happened to the Raiders' defense? Because you guys scored 6 points, and with the way the Broncos have looked recently, that should have been enough.
Okay, so this is another guy who I think needs to be on the guillotine list. The defense was out of position and run over all day, and the only reason I could find watching the tape or following Gypsy Safety on Twitter is Ken Norton Jr. and his literally retarded defense. He kept running a 4-3 formation with Mack on an island and 2 defensive tackles bunched up near Irvin, who was standing up in a joker role. And if you can't really imagine what I'm saying, imagine Mack on the outside between a tackle and a tight end. And so on the offensive side, you have a tackle, a guard, and a center. And then you have 2 defensive tackles lined up across from the A gap between the center and the left guard. And then Irvin in the B gap between the tackle and the guard. Meaning everybody's bunched up on the left side of the offense, but Mack is by himself taking on 3 people. And honestly, the Broncos saw that a few times and just ran straight at it. It's like the biggest hole you can think of. By the time the linebacker Perry Riley could even try to fill the gap, he already had the tackle kind of edging out Mack with the running back behind him, and he had the tackle and the guard swallowing him up and the safety. You get a guy in the third level of the defense, and you end up with a 60-yard run gashing down the field. And that's not the first time it happened, and it wasn't the last time it happened in that game. I don't really know how he came up with these schemes against the Broncos offense where he was trying to attack the tackles but left the guards open, which are like the strongest parts of the Broncos offensive line. But he kind of screwed our defense over with his formations. We have guys who are able to make stops, and you saw that last time we played them. We were able to stop them. But he left us in a position where there's really nothing they could honestly do at that point. And there's one negative. The offense wasn't able to do anything with McCoy at the quarterback position. 2, the defense wasn't able to do anything because they literally shot themselves. And then 3, you come into this game with whoever the freak that freaking head official and his crew were. The guy looked like Murr from Impractical Jokers or Barney Fife. I looked it up. He's literally only had his job since 2014, and he's charged with reffing a divisional game that decides playoff seeding. He needed Jack Del Rio to explain to him a rule. Like, the referees are supposed to know every rule in the book, but he didn't know that you could horse collar tackle a running back inside the tackle box. I don't really understand what was going on with that. Also, he was right in front of Aqib Talib snatching Michael Crabtree's chain off after the play. So running up to him, snatching it off and running away. Didn't call a flag on that either. They just kind of looked as bad as McGloin looked out there, honestly. And, there weren't many positives to this game. I can find one. Brendan Trawick, he came in for Nate Allen after he went out. And he actually played pretty well in Nate Allen's role. He was flying around making plays all day, and seemed to always be near the ball, which is a plus side for future, especially when this upcoming week when Carl Joseph is playing on probably 70% with his toe injury, which will probably not be 100% healthy. So he could honestly fill in if needed, and he plays well doing so. That's all I have, Chris. Whatever, go ahead and start your parade for your couch sitting game of
Well,
of
just hearing your
2017.
disappointment was enough for me. And I'm not going to rub it in too much because I do feel bad that you guys have a quarterback with a broken leg. And I would have liked to have seen Derek Carr at his finest go up against the Broncos because I think it would have been a lot of fun to watch, especially since I was at the game. But I'll take a win against the Raiders at home. And it was a lot of fun listening to the crowd chant Raiders suck near the end there and watching the Raiders fans file out of the stadium. Especially since they had so much confidence early on and were standing up and pointing at their Cooper jerseys and having a good time. It was a lot of fun to be there. But
It was false confidence, honestly, at that point. A lot of people were still kind of depressed over the whole Carr incident.
yeah.
So they had to try to, be happy with just the whole playoff thing. And if you show that you're kind of down when you're still in it, you kind of basically lost at that point. I mean, we lost still, but better than lost swinging than just be dead in the water at that point,
I'll give it to some of them. Some of them stuck it out to the fourth quarter, but most of them were gone by the beginning of the third. So it was a good victory for us. Our offense came out in a form that we wish we would have seen the entire year, because for the first time in a long time, we were able to actually score on our first drive in the first quarter. It was a miracle. And weirdly enough, our right tackle was actually able to block for part of the game. I saw someone standing on the right side of the right guard. So that was something new. Usually it's just kind of a ghost town over there. I didn't see much happening over there, but according to Pro Football Focus, our offensive line actually had one of their best showings of the whole year. Okung and Matt Paradis especially were just stellar. They were the two highest rated offensive players we had, according to them. Matt Paradis all year long has been one of the best centers in the league, and I hope we hold on to him for a long time because he's the rock that we need on the offensive line. I still hope we replace our right tackles because you can't just produce for one quarter out of all of the quarters in an entire season. So we we need something better than that. But it was surprising. I was at the game, and in the first drive, I saw Jeff Horsemen, the tight end we drafted, I think, last year, catch a few balls, and I almost gasped. I was like, who is that? Who's catching those balls? Because I don't think I've ever seen him play that well on TV or anywhere. And it was awesome to see him actually do something. And really, that first drive was really exciting. I was so glad that I got to see it in person because we just marched down the field and punched it in like it was nothing. And if we could have been doing that all year long, we would have at least been in the playoffs, but we would have had at least 2 or 3 more wins. And really, it's strange because it was like almost opposite world. Because the whole year long, the offensive line has been shit, the running game has been shit, and Trevor Siemian has been able to make some amazing plays under a lot of pressure. But during this game, when he had all the protection that our offensive line seems to be capable of giving him, he played one of his worst games of the season, which was disappointing. It's a bad note to go out on. But I still have hope for his future, and I'm excited for having a new head coach next year because I think the play calling may have been a big problem for our offense, just ignoring all the other problems. I mean, we were supposed to be a running offense, and even though we were really inefficient at running the ball, we didn't even try in some games. We'd go out there and we'd throw 6 or 7 times and get 2 or 3 3-and-outs only throwing without even trying to run the ball. And if you're supposedly a running offense, that just doesn't work. And this game gave me a lot of hope. And it was strange. They talked a lot about putting Paxton Lynch out there for this game, and I was kind of disappointed I didn't get to see him because they didn't put him out there at all. But it was also, encouraging because it shows that they've got a lot of faith in Siemian. And I am personally a really big fan of Trevor Siemian. It'd be nice to see Paxton develop into a great franchise quarterback, but so far he hasn't shown us a lot of gumption. I don't know if you guys have seen him play at all, but from what I've seen, he's been pretty inaccurate, pretty frantic, and he's a big guy, and that's about all he has going for him. But kind of like a certain Brock Osweiler we got rid of. But otherwise, we were able to do enough to get the running game going, and I think we had most of our yards on 2 plays from Forsett, who had like a 75-yard run or something huge.
64.
64. It seemed bigger in person.
Well, he busted through the A gap, and then he kind of ran to the sideline, which adds about 10 yards on the actual total yardage.
Yeah, but besides that, we got a couple turnovers on defense, I think.
Yeah, a pick and a forced fumble.
Sack 3, fumble. It looks like. Yeah. The pick was amazing to see. Everyone leapt out of their seats at the stadium, and it looked like he was going to run it all the way back, and that was going to be the defining moment for the game for me. But otherwise, it was just great to see us dominate the Raiders. Obviously, big rival. And with the way you guys have been playing all year, going into that game, I was nervous. Even though Carr wasn't in there, I was nervous to go out on a bad note. So it felt good for us. You guys get a consolation prize. You're still in the freaking playoffs. You still got a chance.
Is it a consolation prize when we're running in the playoffs with our third-string quarterback?
Considering that you haven't been in the playoffs since 2002, I would just say take what you've got.
It's always next year, man.
The fact that you have to say that while we're in the playoffs.
Could be worse.
All right.
Could be worse.
Well, anyway, the Raiders fall down to the 5 seed and have to go on the road at Houston this week against Brock Osweiler, who will be the starting quarterback. And Tom Savage is out with a concussion, so if anything happens to Brock Osweiler, their backup is Brandon Whedon, so it doesn't get much better than that.
No, that is a game I'd
Tyler.
for.
So you got Osweiler or Whedon versus Connor Cook.
So
Tyler,
pretty much confirmed.
Is this the worst playoff game of all time?
No, it's gonna be the best. I told you this earlier. It's gonna be the best playoff game of all time. It's gonna be another one of those, Beastquake games where it's just like nobody was watching it, but then you hear about it and you're like, "What the heck did I even just miss?" But I just got a question. Y'all got any more of them laser pointers or that ecstasy? But so just heard this today. It's Wednesday, by the way. If you guys forgot already, we've been here for about 30 minutes. After hearing he'll be facing Connor Cook in his first start, former draft bust Jadeveon Clowney stated he hopes they blitz every play. Now, I can only speculate that he means that he can't get to the rookie with just a 4-man rush because his pass rush is so terrible. But just in case he means he wants to actually rattle Connor Cook, watching Cook take on the Broncos, the times where they forced the most mistakes, like the pick or the sack fumble, the Broncos only went with like 4 or 5 rushers and kind of let the rookie screw himself. On the blitzes, he usually got the ball out quickly or just checked to a run, which is kind of stupid. But blitzing every play wasn't exactly effective, and it probably won't be an effective game plan. So maybe Clowney should probably finish watching tape before the game comes on Saturday, or maybe he just shouldn't. We'll see. And that kind of leads to the point. The way I see Cook succeeding in this game is doing what John Gruden told him to do in his QB camp episode. If you guys saw it, one of his main focuses was not forcing the play. He needs to play to his hot reads, throw to Cooper on his short routes or his running backs, and try not to force too much down the field. Even if he sees success with the same play before, that's an easy way to lead to Romeo Crennel out scheming him and forcing a turnover. With some of the guys you have facing, the Texans have a really good pass defense. AJ Bouye, Kareem Jackson, Jonathan Joseph, even their linebackers are really good cover guys. I'm really looking forward to seeing a rematch with just on the outside.
Especially now that we don't have to deal with the altitude of Mexico City and just players being totally worn out from that. So Coop versus Bouye, Krabs versus the other two. But honestly, I feel like if we're going to succeed in this game, we won't even really see those matchups too much on the screen. You'll see a win with the running game. You'll see Jalen Richard and Latavius Murray really get after it. I know the Texans have future retiree Vince Wilfork manning the middle, and he's a very good run stopper. But you got to get our guys, Jackson, Assembly, kind of firing off up the middle, and just they have to be able to get a push, unlike the Denver Broncos game. They have to be able to move the offensive line or move the line of scrimmage up the field so that it makes it easier on a rookie quarterback. They also, on the other side of the ball, this game is going to be about the run game. They have to stop the run. I forget what the name of I forget the Texans running back.
Lamar Miller.
Lamar Miller, yes.
Lamar Miller?
He's an explosive runner. So we're going to need some better defensive formations than whatever the heck Norton threw out against the Broncos. Stacey McGee being back will probably help with that. He's a bigger man in the middle. We were running with Autry and Edwards in the middle, which are two smaller defensive tackles. McGee and Ellis are the lane cloggers, and they'll probably be better suited for firing off against that Texans offensive line. That leads into us fixing some of the holes on our defense. Carl Joseph stepping in will be an upgrade. Nate Allen hasn't really played too bad, but Joseph was the one who kind of would run up and deliver the hit on the running back. As you saw when he went down, our run defense kind of suffered as well, which left our defense on the field for longer times. And finally, like I just mentioned, Carl Joseph being back, he needs to make his presence felt, and so does Khalil Mack. We haven't really heard from him in this last game, and I didn't really hear from him in the Colts game either. Before that, he's got to get to Osweiler early and often, and Joseph has got to lay the wood, kind of make them afraid to go over the middle with these quick receivers that they have, because if they're able to find time and give Osweiler options, he's going to eat them alive. He's not great. He is a free agency bust just because he's played pretty bad with all the money he commanded, but if you give him time and you give him options, he will destroy you. So we have to limit his options. We have to rattle him early and often. And I actually could see us winning this game through the defense and the running game. I don't think we really rely on Cook too much in this game. If you want my prediction now, I don't think it's going to be high scoring. I say maybe 17-13 Raiders.
All right. I'm going to go 3-0 Raiders in triple overtime in the worst game of football ever played.
All right.
You're giving a lot of credit to the Raiders.
Yeah, what are you talking about?
Nothing. No. The Houston Texans will score more than nothing against the Raiders defense. But I'll take off on the next one. And I agree with Tyler in that it's going to be low scoring. And I also agree with the fact that it's going to be close. It's so hard to tell between these two teams and just in terms of their matchup situations, because a lot of the matchups are really even. And let's say if Derek Carr was in this game, this is far and away a Raiders victory. But because we're sticking with Connor Cook here against Houston's backup quarterbacks, it's just, who has the advantage over the air is the interesting thing, because both teams have weapons on offense when it comes to the passing game. Both teams have weapons in the run game. Both teams have offensive lines that can road grade it, as well as anyone.
And I think one advantage we have with Connor Cook at quarterback is you've seen Savage and you've seen Osweiler at quarterback. Nobody's seen Cook. They don't know what he can do.
Fair.
That's one. They don't really have film to really watch on him. There's not really any tape. Yeah, he has like 100 yards against the Broncos you could look at, which is like 4 pass plays because we ran it literally most of the time. But you don't know really what you're gonna get out of Cook. You don't know if he's gonna go out and sling it or if he's gonna just be conservative the entire time.
Considering that he's also the third string quarterback, that means he doesn't get as many of the practice reps as say Carr or McCoy would usually get on a regular practice day. So maybe the Raiders also don't know really what they're getting with Connor Cook either. So
That is true.
so that's going to be an interesting thing for the Raiders to figure out. At least they've got a week to do so. And on defense, I mean, obviously for both sides, both teams have interesting defensive situations going on. Both of them have strengths in some areas of the field. Both teams can generate a pass rush, but although their numbers don't seem to indicate so. Both teams have pretty good secondaries. I'd say Houston's has the edge on that end, and both teams have good front sevens that can, when you give them the right situation, put pressure on the fronts of other teams. And it's gonna be interesting. I wish I can say I knew who was going to win this game just like as easy as I could, but it's so difficult. But I'm going to go with the Texans winning simply because I like Brock Osweiler being odd to say, but I like him being an X factor in this game over Connor Cook.
Wait, you
Oh my god.
Yeah, I just said that. Yep. I
you
mean,
just start that sentence with "I like Brock Osweiler."
No.
Yes.
But he ended it with being an X factor.
yeah, I thought that was the part you were going to get freaked out on. Yeah, the X factor part is the weird thing, but in terms of
Well, I was more concerned about how you started that sentence.
By X
Just blocked
factor,
out the
do you
rest of
mean
it.
throwing picks?
Yeah.
Just
You heard Brock Osweiler punt return touchdown. You heard it here first.
I would pay money to see that. All right, well, either way, he's going to be the part that makes or breaks this, the game. Whether or not he plays well. If he
Better
plays
earn
well,
your money, boy.
if he plays well, I mean, I think the Texans win this game. If he doesn't play well, the Raiders easily take it away because he's obviously known to be turnover prone. But there are games where he actually holds his own, so he's inconsistent. I don't know what to say else on that, but if he managed to hold it together, if the Raiders don't manage to get to him, they have a really good chance he's got a really good chance of picking your secondary apart. So if I'm making the bet that if Ken Norton's going to make those random defensive formations, like lining up like several guys on one side of the ball, like a freaking kick, like he's freaking blocking a kick, then
Please, God, no.
if that's going to be your formation, then I mean, I don't see how you're going to get to Brock Osweiler more often than not. And on top of that, we've already heard about Raider fans complaining about Ken Norton's play calling so much so that at one point I think Del Rio took over play calling on defense. Isn't that right?
That was like week 2.
Well, it still happened, and it happened that early. So that's just, I mean, when you think about things like that, that's not helpful to the Raiders' cause. And Romeo Crennel doesn't need help when it comes to calling defense. So I don't know. I like the Texans in this game. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be low scoring, but I like the Texans.
You're comparing Romeo Crennel to Ken Norton Jr. That's like comparing Bill Belichick to Hugh Jackson. I don't really.
Well,
Of course, Romeo Crennel is not going to need help. He's like a defensive genius.
sure, but at the same time, I'm just looking at like what these teams have called and what the results have been in terms of just what we've seen all throughout the season. It doesn't have to necessarily rely on experience here. So I'm just going with what I see. And off of that, Crennel has done a better job than Ken Norton Jr. Maybe it's surprising, maybe it isn't, but it's just that's what it is. And so, with all that said, I think more than likely the Texans are going to win this game. I think the Raiders see an early playoff exit. I'm going to call, I'd say 20-16. It's going to be close.
It makes sense.
Okay.
Chris, did you pick?
Well, I think the Houston Texans have a lot better defense than the Oakland Raiders. And maybe that's
Hot take there.
too obvious. Yeah. But still, Oakland has been pretty good against the run. So unless, Osweiler comes out a different quarterback, I think it's going to be close. And I don't think he's going to come out a different quarterback. Maybe that's bold as well. But I'm just going to go ahead and start with my score. 13-10 Houston. I think they'll edge out because somehow they've been winning games all year with Osweiler at the helm. I don't know how they made it to the playoffs, but they did. And it's kind of a mystery, but
AFC South. That's how.
yeah,
Tennessee did it dumb by losing to Jacksonville.
Still, I think you put someone like Connor Cook up against a good pass defense like that. It's either they're gonna be able to run the ball well with Latavius or he's gonna fail. And there's going to be turnovers.
Yeah.
And turnovers will shift the game. And even if Houston can't capitalize on it with touchdowns,
It keeps the ball out of the Oakland out of the offense's hands.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it kills momentum too.
Yeah. So 13-10. That's my score.
All right. Well, the other playoff game in the AFC, the number 6 seed Miami Dolphins go to Pittsburgh to take on the number 3 seed Steelers. And if the Steelers win, they will go to Arrowhead next week. But if the Dolphins somehow win, the Dolphins would go to Foxborough, and the winner of the Texans
And the
Raiders
Patriots
game
would win.
Yes. If the Dolphins somehow beat the Steelers, and the winner of the Raiders-Texans game would end up playing the Chiefs next week. But I don't think that's going to happen. So Chiefs probably going to be going against the Steelers next week.
And whoever wins the Oakland-Houston game is going to get eviscerated by New England on live TV.
Any given Sunday, guys.
All right, let's be okay. Come on,
Spirit.
he's drinking that playoff Kool-Aid though. 14 years he needs it.
I give up hope when it's the fourth quarter and the clock hits 0-0, unless it's going to overtime.
Okay, as much as I hate the Raiders, it would be pretty cool if you guys won. If you pulled it out.
I would love to beat the Patriots and then be destroyed by the Chiefs, just so the Chiefs go to the Super Bowl and get destroyed by the Cowboys. That would be like my dream playoff scenario.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that.
I can live with that.
You are so salty that your dream scenario doesn't involve you winning the Super Bowl.
Literally can't even hope for the Super Bowl.
Okay, they're dreams, but they're not that unrealistic.
That's just how much he loves Derek Carr.
Yeah, I don't want us to win without Carr. Come on.
Also, it just makes Prather sad. Just annoys him now.
It does make me sad.
Just go to the Super Bowl finally and then lose.
And then we see another 43-8.
Oh. Okay. Well, I think that's going to do it for us this week. Join us again next week, and we will go over all of the playoff happenings and
How the Raiders lost.
talk about how the Raiders lost.